Thank you, everyone, for joining. Welcome to the March 9th IPFS, Filecoin, and libp2p ecosystem working group. All hands, we're picking this back up after a couple months off here, but lots of exciting things to report. So let's dive right into it. Today's agenda is I'll do a quick ecosystem working group overview and talk about some higher level topics. We'll go through team updates for about 5 minutes. We have 10 amazing spotlights that we'll try and keep to 60 seconds each, and then 2 deep dives around data onboarding and FVM launch that is going to be super, super exciting. So we'll get right into it without further ado. So the ecosystem working group mission is to seed the long-term growth of the decentralized web by cultivating a wide variety of stakeholders, aligning them with the success of IPFS, Filecoin, and libp2p, and treating them like absolute gold. We support 3 major protocols today: Filecoin, IPFS, and libp2p, but hope to do quite a bit more in the future as we start to establish the foundation for the decentralized web. The ecosystem working group comes from many, many different organizations and has over 100 full-time contributors. So this is kind of a loosely organized kind of working group that encompasses the foundation, Outer Core, Protocol Labs, NFT.storage, Starboard, Filecoin Green, Estuary, and many, many other orgs. Now, usually I go through metrics for kind of each of those projects individually, but for today, I wanted to focus on Filecoin just in and of itself, because we have a super exciting launch coming up on March 14th, which is the launch of the Filecoin virtual machine, which brings programmability into the chain in a way that's never been done before. And so I thought I would just spend a few minutes in the introduction here, connecting the dots of how FVM fits into the Filecoin master plan, if that works for everyone. So today, Filecoin is the scalable data storage layer of Web3. If you add up all of the decentralized web protocols of Web3 for data storage, Filecoin is 99% of total storage capacity, 96% of storage utilization, and has become the clear storage platform of choice for Web3 developers. But that obviously still falls short of the community's ambitions. We want Filecoin to help Web3 cross the chasm and accelerate the transition from Web 2 to Web 3. And that's kind of why we're all here in this group today, for those watching or for those in the core ecosystem working group. We want to onboard billions of people to technology that brings verifiability to our internet interactions. And the only way to do that is to make Web 3 storage and compute become web scale, to be able to handle web scale type applications. Think like YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, to live on Web 3 infrastructure. So we embarked on this journey with Filecoin and built a master plan to get there. Step 1 being to build the world's largest decentralized storage network. Step 2 to onboard and safeguard humanity's data. And step 3 to bring compute to the data to enable web scale applications. So I'll cover a few of the progress within each of those steps now. So step 1, we have built a storage network of 3,800 different storage provider systems around 44 countries with 13 exabytes of storage capacity, which is absolutely incredible. This includes storage providers all over the world providing unique services to store client data. In and of itself, we're actually bigger than many public Web 2 centralized storage players, and we have the support of like major ecosystem partners like Seagate, AMD, Supermicro, and many others to help grow this network. Furthermore, Filecoin is the greenest kind of blockchain and is evolving to do so in a verifiable way, which is absolutely incredible. Step 2 is to onboard and safeguard humanity's data. And we've made a tremendous amount of progress on this in the last 14 months. About 14 months ago, there was about 24 petabytes of data stored on the Filecoin network. By the end of February, we have 25x that number. And today we're actually at about 27x, so continuing to grow here substantially. So there are now over 600 petabytes of live data stored across 22 million active deals in the network. We have 25x in the last 14 months. We are now onboarding 3 to 4 petabytes of data a day, which is a 20x improvement from where we were at the beginning of last year. And what's incredible is that we still have 13 exabytes of capacity to fill with real user data as well. And where's this data coming from? Well, it's all sorts of clients from around the world. There are about 1,400 unique clients that have uploaded data, of which 23% have uploaded over 100 tips. A client can be an onboarding platform like Estuary or NFT.storage, which in and of itself serves thousands of other end users, or it could be a large kind of Web2 player that is onboarding a petabyte or more. There are hundreds of applications building on the stack, over 500 total funded teams building in the Filecoin, IPFS, and PLN ecosystems, and hundreds of large data sets, most of which I find personally really inspirational, that are using Filecoin as their storage layer. So now we get to step 3. And the launch of FEM really initiates step 3 of the Filecoin master plan by bringing smart contracts and user programmability to Filecoin and unleashing the enormous potential of a truly open data economy. And so this is how I think about FEM. If you look at the diagram there, it underpins some of the off-chain building blocks of the Filecoin economy, namely storage, retrieval markets, and compute over data at scale. And so FEM is the on-chain programmable layer that orchestrates where and how data gets placed, incentivized, and governed, giving rise to concepts like data DAOs and programmable storage, which we've never really seen before in a Web2 context. And of course, any developer can deploy smart contracts to Filecoin, allowing more people to participate in the creation and capture of value around data. And so in and of itself, this is a super unique moment for Filecoin in Web3, because Filecoin becomes an L1 that is uniquely powers the open data economy in a way that we haven't seen in Web3 before. It also allows kind of the players around Filecoin to capture more value. So if you think of storage and retrieval being kind of like $10 to $30 billion markets, compute opens up this $300 billion economy for open data that has never been tapped before in Filecoin, and in a Web2 context can't be programmable to the extent that Filecoin can do it. So this opens up a whole new economy for builders. We also want to use FEM to kind of work with a number of bridges to other blockchain networks. Now, some of those exist today, but they're a little clunky. With FEM, this builds a much more reliable connectivity layer to other blockchains, where smart contracts across the Web3 space can store data, retrieve that data, and cause computation to happen on Filecoin. And so this becomes a lot easier with the the launch of FEM. And really, Filecoin is the only network with the scale to support this for the entire Web3 space, which is super, super exciting. The launch of FEM also enables large-scale compute over Filecoin data, which enables massive Web2 applications to finally make the transition to Web3. Currently, things like YouTube or Twitter can't actually work on Web3 infra because it doesn't have that large-scale compute. And FEM basically enables those compute services to come on board to Filecoin and compute over the large-scale data sets required to do this. And finally, FEM also enables next generation scalability and consensus breakthroughs. There's one particular one called the interplanetary consensus that has the promise of moving from, call it a couple hundred transactions per second, which is kind of like the upper maximum within blockchain today, to billions of transactions per second, or ideally trillions in the future. And so this is something that's in an alpha state today, will be launched in a beta state later this year, and will bring a whole new level of scalability, not only to Filecoin, but ideally other blockchains in the space as well. All these considered, with the launch of FEM basically kicks off the step 3 of the Filecoin master plan that enables massive scale data science and web scale Web3 applications to live within Web3 infrastructure, which is super, super exciting. So that is kind of the Filecoin master plan. We've kind of accomplished step 1 already. We built the largest decentralized storage network, tremendous progress on step 2, onboarding and safeguarding humanity's data. And on March 14th, we initiate step 3, where with the launch of FEM, we can bring compute to the data to enable web scale applications and hopefully accelerate the transition from Web 2 to Web 3. The launch of FEM next week will solidify Filecoin's position as an L1 uniquely poised to power the open data economy. And we're super, super excited. And finally, a big plug to any builders kind of watching this all hands today. There is absolutely no better time to join the Filecoin ecosystem. Our last hackathon on FVM was called Space Warp, which engaged over 1,000 hackers and 280 project submissions. We'll be doing hackathons about every once a month for the rest of the year on FVM. We have dedicated accelerator programs for builders on FVM, led by Longcash, Graph Paper Capital, and soon Outlier Ventures. And we have capital and funding entering the ecosystem to take a look at startups building on the FVM, things like Phil.vc, which we'll talk about in a minute as well. So that is a quick overview over FVM and how that builds into the Filecoin master plan. I'm going to ask a few of our leads here to zoom out and cover just maybe 45 to 60 seconds on working group updates, starting with Mosh with developers and collabs.
Hey everyone, just a few highlights from developers and collabs. Our pre-launch programs for FVM, which include Foundry, Space Warp, hackathons, and lots more, have yielded over 200 teams building on the FVM, and that's before we hit mainnet. So smashing success by every measure, and thank you to all the teams and community partners who helped make this happen. The next up is for FVM launch, there are a ton of new cross-chain integrations happening, being finalized, delivered across this week and next to make Filecoin more connected than ever as the default data layer for Web3. You'll see specific names coming out next Tuesday. And finally, IPFS Thing, which is the conference for IPFS implementations and infrastructure, is now open for tickets and talk submissions. So you'll hear more about that from Dietrich very soon. Over to Stefan for network growth.
Hi, everyone. Network growth is focused on three main pillars. One is demonstrating utility, increasing profitability for the SPs, and activating capital. So some quick updates, as Colin already mentioned, we're continuing to see an accelerated growth. We're reaching 4 pips with some peaks even above that in the last couple of days, which is very amazing. And then we're building new tooling. So that was another main pillar. And so there's new products coming to market, Delta.store, FW services. Please check those out. Those will be new rails for our developers and dApps to onboard data to the network. From an SP perspective, we're now seeing 20% and growing number of storage provider systems taking deals, which is great. And we also have a new storage provider calculator. Please check it out. An SP ROI calculator. Angela will talk more about it later. And staking solutions, for us, what's really important is unlock as much liquidity as possible or lock it in through staking solutions. And so 14 staking solutions are currently identified and building on FVM, which is incredible. 2 will go live at FVM in March. So stay tuned for more updates in the next month. And thank you, everyone, for building this ecosystem with us.
Thank you, Stefan. On to Dietrich.
Hey, everybody. Browsers and platforms team, small team with broad footprint and a whole lot of friends that we work with. Some of those friends are listed here. Brave this quarter, we launched Kubo 18, shipped in Brave. The auto pinning of NFTs to your local IPFS node will ship soon. That's something you can download Brave Nightly and try now. We have a demo available of IPFS integration into Chromium native, which should make IPFS more adoptable by a larger number of browser vendors. You can go to the browsers and platforms channel in Filecoin Slack and try it out. Standards and specs world, a couple interesting things. We have a new specs website that we're testing. That's specs.ipfs.tech that you can try out today. Also, we are seeing some interest from many browser vendors in bringing things like Curve 25519 into the Web Crypto API, broadening our impact across the ecosystem. Durin, you can try IPFS on your mobile device today, sharing and pulling content you can install on Android and iOS, and then the L400 that you've heard so much about with Lockheed and our partners, Blueberry Labs, that you can view video demos of that software running end-to-end today in the Space channel on Filecoin Slack. Check it out.
Awesome. Thank you, Dietrich. On to founders and startups with Ruben.
Amazing. Thank you. For the more mature founders in our ecosystem, we have created the Founders Program, and the Founders Program does exactly 2 things: acceleration services and portfolio support. On the acceleration side, we are closing a number of amazing partners, including Prod, MIT, Harvard, and others. But we also do have a number of programs in flight, specifically look at our partnership with A16Z, CV Labs in Switzerland, and the OV Basecamp. We are also now sourcing, to what Colin said, specifically for teams that are building on FVM to accelerate those. There's a lot of ecosystem capital available. Specifically, please do have a look at Longhash, Graph Paper Capital, and Ovi if you are a builder in the ecosystem. There's also a lot that we are doing on portfolio support. I'm going to double click on this in a little bit later today.
Thank you. And finally, community with Angie.
Awesome. So our amazing creative and community teams had a very busy Q1. Last week, they took ETH Denver by storm, where 12,500 builders gathered to celebrate everything Web3. Paige is going to share a bit more info in the spotlights. Our Filecoin Green team continue to host monthly meetups in a sustainable blockchain Ask Me Anything series to discuss how we can make blockchains more sustainable. We shared news about FBM, Filecoin Green, FilVC, and many more projects with Forbes, Political, Cointelegraph, The Block, Forecast, the Smart Economy podcast, and more. We have so much coming up over the next couple of months, including Wanjiang Blockchain Week, the 4th Sustainable Blockchain Summit, and the widely anticipated FVM virtual launch on April 14th. So get yourselves ready. I'm going to share the links in registration, and looking forward to seeing all of you there.
Awesome. Thank you, Angie. Perfect. So that covers the high-level working group updates for ecosystem.